Clark Show, baby. Caitlin Clark did it again, shirt and tie. Cause damn it, we mean business. We meant business today versus the New York Liberty. We got Bonehead.
When the lights shine brightest and the pressure threatens to crush everyone else on the floor, true greatness doesn't just adapt, it completely takes over. Everyone was tuning in to watch what was supposed to be an absolute showcase of elite super team dominance. A night where experience, size, and tactical perfection were scheduled to put a young squad back in their place. The New York Liberty brought their absolute best, wielding a lineup stacked with former MVPs, champion marksmen, and interior enforcers specifically trained to lock down open lanes and suffocate perimeter threats. But nobody in that arena accounted for what happens when a generational talent decides to rip up the game plan, ignore baffling sideline calls, and activate full GOAT mode right in front of a stunned national audience. What went down on that floor wasn't just another basketball game. It was a total breakdown of authority, a masterclass in sheer basketball IQ, and a clear message to the entire league that no defensive scheme or coaching blunder can contain pure instinct when it takes over the floor. From the very first tip-off, the strategy against the young playmaker was crystal clear. The Liberty came out with an aggressive, physical blueprint designed to make every single touch a battle. They bumped her at half court, trapped her off every high pick and roll, and tried to use their veteran strength to rattle her timing. Brianna Stewart was floating in the lanes like a free safety, while Sabrina Ionescu provided relentless ball pressure, daring the rookie phenom to throw a forced pass or take contested, low-percentage shots. The noise in the building was deafening, and early on, it looked like the trap was working perfectly. The offense looked rigid, frozen by the suffocating length of New York's interior rim protectors. But while the opposing defense thought they had set the ultimate trap, they failed to realize they were dealing with someone who sees the floor 3 steps ahead of everyone else. Every single physical check and every double team was simply feeding data into a hyper-calculated basketball mind that was waiting for the exact right moment to turn the tables. Yet as the pressure mounted on the court, the biggest problem wasn't even coming from the jersey colors on the opposing side. It was coming from the bench. Coach Stephanie White entered the matchup with a game plan that left fans, analysts, and even players scratching their heads in absolute disbelief. Instead of leaning into the lightning-fast transition speed that made her star guard lethal, the coaching staff insisted on dragging out slow, half-court sets that played directly into New York's defensive strengths. Timeouts were called at the most bizarre moments, completely killing raw offensive momentum just as the squad was finding a rhythm. Baffling rotation choices saw key shooters yanked off the floor right when the spacing was opening up, leaving the offense choked out inside the paint. Fans in the stands could feel the frustration building as rigid play calling continuously handed the advantage back to a veteran Liberty squad that was more than happy to punish every single tactical mistake. That was the exact moment the entire game shifted on its axis. Recognizing that following the sideline instructions was a fast track to a blowout defeat, Caitlin Clark took matters into her own hands. Coming off a defensive rebound, she completely ignored the slow-down hand signals from the bench, pushed the tempo straight down the center of the court, and pulled up from nearly 35 feet out without a second of hesitation. Swish! The net barely moved, but the sound echoed like a lightning strike through the arena. On the very next possession, she used a quick head fake to completely freeze her defender, drove hard into the lane, and flicked a blind, behind-the-back pass through 3 defenders straight into the hands of an open teammate for an easy layup. She wasn't just playing point guard anymore. She was orchestrating an entire offensive revolution in real time, overriding the coaching staff's conservative calls and unleashing a brand of chaotic, high-speed basketball that New York simply had no answer for. As the second half got underway, The momentum exploded into pure theater. The Liberty tried everything in their defensive playbook to regain control. They tried switching, they tried blitzing the screen, and they even dropped into a zone to try and protect the paint. But nothing worked. Clark was operating in a state of absolute flow. When they pressed up tight on her jersey, she blew past them with a lightning blow-by drive, drawing contact and finishing tough around the rim. When they sagged off to protect against the drive, she punished them with cold-blooded logo-range daggers that left opposing coaches throwing their hands up in complete despair. Every time she touched the ball, you could feel the entire crowd rise to their feet in anticipation. She shattered defensive rotations with pinpoint cross-court skips, fed her post players with effortless bounce passes, and racked up numbers that looked like they belonged in a video game mode. The super team that was supposed to teach the kid a lesson was suddenly looking around at each other, desperate for answers that simply did not exist. What made the performance even more incredible was the psychological tug-of-war happening on the sidelines during every break in action. The body language said it all. While Stephanie White was frantically drawing up rigid plays on the clipboard during timeouts, Clark was already gathered with her teammates in the huddle, directing traffic, pointing out defensive lapses, and calling out the exact sets they were actually going to run once they stepped back onto the floor. It was a fascinating, tense dynamic. A young superstar forced to navigate not only an elite opponent, but also a coaching structure that seemed stuck in an outdated era of slow-paced basketball. Yet despite the clear disconnect and the mounting frustration over rotation errors that nearly gave away lead after lead, the absolute brilliance on the floor refused to be denied. It was a masterclass in leadership born out of absolute necessity, proving that true alpha players don't wait for permission to be great. They demand it through sheer force of will. By the time the fourth quarter rolled around, the New York Liberty were completely visibly shaken. The physical play that had worked so well in the opening minutes had backfired completely, serving only to ignite a competitive fire that consumed the entire building. Sabrina Ionescu tried to answer back with big shots of her own, but every single punch New York landed was instantly met with a devastating counterpunch. Clark didn't just put up points. She completely broke the spirit of the opposing defense. With under 3 minutes remaining and the game hanging delicately in the balance, she delivered the final, undeniable masterpiece. Off a broken play that originated from yet another disorganized set, she grabbed a loose ball, stepped back behind the arc with a defender draped all over her hand, and let fly a soaring shot as the shot clock expired. The ball hit nothing but net, expanding the lead and driving a dagger straight through the heart of the opposition. When the final buzzer rang, the box score confirmed what everyone in that building had just witnessed with their own eyes. Records had been broken, defensive reputations had been shattered, and a point had been made that could never be erased. Caitlin Clark had just dismantled one of the most formidable basketball rosters on the planet, put on a performance for the history books, and done it all while overcoming strategic missteps from her own sideline. The post-game discussions weren't focused on the predictable tactical schemes or the defensive adjustments that failed. They were centered around the undeniable reality that a new standard of greatness had officially arrived. It leaves you wondering just how far this extraordinary player can go once all the pieces finally align around her. Was this performance just a random flash of individual brilliance? Or did we witness the permanent shift of power in women's basketball right before our eyes? The sheer magnitude of what took place on the court extends far beyond a single win or loss on the season record. It exposed the massive gap between traditional coaching philosophies and the modern, rapid-pace play style that is sweeping through the basketball world. For years, rigid systems and slow half-court execution were treated as the undisputed Bible of elite basketball. But performances like this prove that real magic happens when high IQ superstars are given the keys to push the limits of creativity. The narrative surrounding the Indiana Fever is evolving by the minute, and the ongoing debate regarding coaching adjustments, team management, and strategic freedom is only going to get louder as the spotlight grows brighter. Fans across the globe are demanding to see an offense fully unlocked, built around speed, perimeter shooting, and unselfish transition passing, rather than suffocated by conservative play calling. Every single time the ball moved through her hands, it was clear that the speed of the game had completely slowed down for her. What looks like chaos to an outside observer is actually crystal-clear geometry to a generational passer. When defenders tried to jump the passing lanes, she used subtle eye fakes to hold them in place before delivering no-look passes that left rim protectors completely out of position. When opposing guards tried to play heavy physical defense off the ball, she used relentless off-ball movement to tire them out, running them through endless series of screens until they simply ran out of gas. This isn't just about athletic talent. It is about an unprecedented understanding of angles, timing, and momentum that enables a single player to completely dictate the rhythm of an entire 40-minute contest, regardless of who is standing on the opposite baseline. The reaction from the basketball community was immediate and overwhelming. Media personalities, former league legends, and current players all took to social media to break down what they had just seen. The general consensus was undeniable. You simply cannot coach against instinct of that caliber. Former players pointed out how rare it is for a young athlete to command that level of authority on the floor, overriding set calls, rearranging teammates on the fly, and executing at an elite efficiency rate under immense pressure. The dynamic between player power and coaching direction has officially become the primary talking point surrounding this franchise. If a head coach cannot adapt to the explosive, high-tempo capabilities of their premier talent, the friction will inevitably reach a boiling point that forces real, lasting structural change across the organization. Consider the immense burden resting on the shoulders of a young athlete, carrying the entire weight of a league's media visibility. Every single turnover is magnified. Every missed defensive assignment is picked apart under a microscope, and every sideline interaction is analyzed by millions of viewers searching for signs of internal conflict. Yet despite this unimaginable pressure, the focus on court performance remains absolute. Facing down an elite contender like the New York Liberty, a franchise built around deep veteran talent and championship aspirations, and completely breaking their defensive resolve requires a level of mental toughness that very few players ever achieve. It showed the world that beneath the flashy highlights and long-distance jumpers lies a ruthless competitive instinct that thrives when the stakes are raised to their highest possible point. As the season marches forward, every single opponent on the schedule is going to take a long look at the film from this matchup. Defensive coordinators across the league are going to lock themselves in film rooms, trying to figure out a formula that can slow down this unstoppable offensive engine. They will try trapping harder. They will try throwing box-and-one defenses, and they will try physical full-court pressure from the moment the ball is inbounded. But if this historic night proved anything, it's that conventional defensive strategies simply do not work against a player who treats every defensive look as an easily solved puzzle. The real challenge going forward won't just be how opponents adjust, but how the team's internal staff adapts to maximize this rare, once-in-a-generation momentum. The fan base has made their voice heard loud and clear. Arena crowds are setting attendance records night after night, traveling across the country just to get a glimpse of history in the making. The energy inside these buildings is electric, reminiscent of the most iconic eras in basketball history, where every single possession feels like a potential viral moment waiting to happen. The demand for modern, high-octane basketball has reached an all-time high, and any tactical decision that hinders that electric style is met with instant, vocal outrage from millions of passionate followers. The tide has officially turned, and the expectations have been set at a championship level, whether the coaching staff is ready for it or not. Looking back at the critical moments of that fourth-quarter run, you can pinpoint the exact sequence where the Liberty's spirit officially snapped. It wasn't just a single three-pointer or an isolated assist. It was a 3-minute stretch of absolute basketball perfection. A defensive rebound grabbed traffic, a three-quarter court pass delivered with pinpoint laser accuracy for an easy transition bucket, followed immediately by a steal on the defensive end and an pull-up dagger from deep range that brought every single person in the arena to their feet. That sequence didn't just win a game. It rewrote the narrative of what is possible for a young team facing off against a stacked super team lined with decorated superstars. The fallout from this performance will echo throughout the rest of the season and shape the future of the franchise for years to come. Front offices across the league are taking notes on how player-led offenses are changing the meta of professional basketball. The debate over coaching staff compatibility, offensive pacing, and rotational management will continue to heat up as the postseason approaches. When a superstar proves they can elevate their game to GOAT levels despite structural obstacles, it forces everyone involved in the organization to look in the mirror and ask if they are truly doing everything possible to clear the runway for greatness. In the end, basketball is a game decided by the players on the hardwood, not the clipboards on the sidelines. When raw talent, elite intelligence, and unyielding determination come together in a perfect storm, the results are nothing short of breathtaking. Caitlin Clark put on a show that will be talked about for generations, proving that when GOAT mode is activated, even the highest hurdles, toughest defenses, and worst coaching blunders are completely powerless to stop the inevitable rise of a true legend. The league has been officially put on notice, and the basketball world will be watching closely to see what historic barrier falls next. When the lights shine brightest and the pressure threatens to crush everyone else on the floor, true greatness doesn't just adapt, it completely takes over. Everyone was tuning in to watch what was supposed to be an absolute showcase of elite superteam dominance. A night where experience, size, and tactical perfection were scheduled to put a young squad back in their place. The New York Liberty brought their absolute best, wielding a lineup stacked with former MVPs, champion marksmen, and interior enforcers specifically trained to lock down open lanes and suffocate perimeter threats. But nobody in that arena accounted for what happens when a generational talent decides to rip up the game plan, ignore baffling sideline calls, and activate full GOAT mode right in front of a stunned national audience. What went down on that floor wasn't just another basketball game. It was a total breakdown of authority, a masterclass in sheer basketball IQ, and a clear message to the entire league that no defensive scheme or coaching blunder can contain pure instinct when it takes over the floor. From the very first tip-off, the strategy against the young playmaker was crystal clear. The Liberty came out with an aggressive, physical blueprint designed to make every single touch a battle. They bumped her at half court, trapped her off every high pick and roll, and tried to use their veteran strength to rattle her timing. Brianna Stewart was floating in the lanes like a free safety, while Sabrina Ionescu provided relentless ball pressure, daring the rookie phenom to throw a forced pass or take contested, low-percentage shots. The noise in the building was deafening, and early on, it looked like the trap was working perfectly. The offense looked rigid, frozen by the suffocating length of New York's interior rim protectors. But while the opposing defense thought they had set the ultimate trap, they failed to realize they were dealing with someone who sees the floor 3 steps ahead of everyone else. Every single physical check and every double team was simply feeding data into a hyper-calculated basketball mind that was waiting for the exact right moment to turn the tables. Yet as the pressure mounted on the court, the biggest problem wasn't even coming